Hello again, and thank you so much for tuning in. This is going to be a relatively short video, but it's a pretty good topic that we think needed to be covered, especially in my case, talking about autism and how I dealt with it.
We're talking about bullying. Even when he was little and doesn't remember things like that happening and going on, I remember. And it's hard for a mom to watch things like that, and it's hard to know that that's not just a possibility but a probability. I sort of knew that Will was going to be left out. And it wasn't always intentional. Sometimes the kids just didn't acknowledge him. And a lot of times, to be honest, it was because Will wanted to play by himself. He chose to play by himself because they weren't really doing something that he knew how to do or didn't really understand the rules of whatever it was they were doing. And so he chose to play alone. And that's okay. He's an only child, and he learned to play alone. It didn't bother me it didn't always bother me, but there were times when he was left out and it was intentional. And when he tried to be included and he tried to play with other kids and they weren't receptive. That was hard. It's hard to watch. I'm, thinking about it even is hard to think about. As a mother, or as a parent, I can't speak from my father's point of view, but as a mother, that's really hard to watch. Sorry. It's hard to know that that's happening to your child. Wow. All these years later, I can't believe it's kind of coming back, but it's hard to know that that's happening to your child because there's really nothing you can do about it. What was I supposed to do? Go play with the kids to make sure that Will was included, or go out there and fuss everybody out and tell them you better include Will, or, I'm gonna go tell your parents. It's just a weird situation, knowing that it's happening and feeling powerless and feeling helpless, because there were many times when I just didn't know what to do. If I was supposed to just sit back and just let it happen and let him try to figure it out for himself, or was I supposed to, intervene and be the one who set things right, or let natural order take over and eventually, like I said, work itself out. And I pretty much didn't do anything. I felt like that was the best thing to do, because it's weird to try to make other kids play. It's weird. It's not my whatever. So it's difficult to be in that situation and know that your child is feeling left out, and it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch him run around behind other children and watch him trying to be included and trying to play with the other children, and it's just not happening. And we kind of laugh about it, but I'm sort of a doormat. I'm not the kind of person that's gonna run over to another parent or a relative or anyone and say, hey, your kid's being a jerk and not playing with my kid. And that's, I never did that for myself, and I got left out as a child sometimes, and I know we all do. And it's hard to It's more difficult for me to watch. It was more difficult for me to watch my child being left out, and I knew how it felt too, and so that really hurt probably more than it should have.
I don't remember any instances from my early childhood, and from what I've heard, that might be a good thing. The mind will actually help you push out unpleasant thoughts because they can be potentially traumatizing. But she's got more of a grasp on the early childhood thing, and in our book, there's a chapter that she's had a lot of trouble moving past because it brings back a lot of unpleasant memories for her. There was a play date that I was at, and what happened?
There's two emotions with that. There's okay.
Deep breaths.
We were at a play date, and there were a couple of little boys. There was a tent, and there were a couple of little boys that were going into the tent to play, and Will was last in line. And when the little boy in front of him went in the tent, he turned around and closed the sides of the tent, the door of the tent, basically. And Will pulled the doors apart, and he was smiling really big, and the little boy turned around and put both of his hands on Will's chest and shoved him backwards really hard. And I was in the other room. Oh, like I swallowed a potato. I was sitting in the other room with the other moms. And I heard Will's head hit the table when he stumbled backwards. And typically in those situations, it was hard for me to enjoy myself. And if this has ever happened to your child, you know exactly where I'm coming from. But it was hard for me to enjoy myself because I was the one who was always keeping an eye on the kids, because I knew that this was a likely situation. So I heard Will's head hit the table, and I immediately jumped up and I ran to get him. And by the time I got to him, it was one of those open mouth cries, and nothing was coming out except tears. And I grabbed him, and I went back over and sat down, and I was trying to console him, and like I said, it wasn't always intentional. Sometimes it was just the way things worked out. It was just what happened. It was hard for me to take him to school and drop him off because my little bitty boy would get out of the car every day and walk into the school. And I just remember I would watch him walk into the school, and I thought, he's the bravest person I know. He's the bravest kid I know. I don't think any parent is immune to the idea of bullying, because it can happen to anybody.
Something I've always been curious about is I often still wonder, why kids enjoy leaving other kids out. I mean, what's going on in their head that makes them think it'd be fun to leave this guy out?
At the same time, I remember a kid would come over and invite Will to come and play, or even if he had chosen to play by himself, someone would say, "Hey, Will, come play with us." One kid would know, or maybe one or two kids would notice that if he was trying to play with some other kids, that he was being left out, and they would say, "Hey guys, we need to," and that happened too. So I mean, it's not all gloom and doom. All of that to say, there wasn't always, he didn't always get left out, and he didn't always get bullied or whatever. And that is the only time that I ever saw him actually get pushed or shoved or pushed around. I don't think about it all the time, that whenever it's brought up, and recently it's been something that I'm trying to. It's a chapter in our book that I'm trying to talk about, and that's kind of why it's fresh on my brain.
I always close these out. Why don't you close it out this time?
Bring it home. Okay. That was my input. That's what I wanted to say. So before we close out, I just want to invite you once again, or we would like to invite you again, to ask us some questions. Send any questions that you have. We have a website, awesometistic.com. You can email us through our website, or you can comment below if you're on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. And I'm going to try to stop saying